The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, the tension almost tangible. Sunlight streamed in through the tall windows, casting sharp lines across the polished floor. All eyes were on Laura Quinn, the defense attorney known for her sharp tongue and unshakable confidence. She stood at the defense table, perfectly composed in a tailored navy suit, her posture poised like a seasoned performer taking center stage. The prosecution had just wrapped their argument when Laura rose with deliberate calm. Her heels clicked as she stepped forward, eyes sweeping the room. With practiced charm, she addressed the jury, weaving a narrative that painted her client as a scapegoat and the prosecution's case as weak, built on circumstantial evidence and hearsay. Then, her gaze landed on a man seated quietly in the back row, middle-aged, unassuming, dressed in a plain gray suit. He sat alone, scribbling in a worn leather notebook, eyes focused but distant. Laura paused just a beat before speaking again, her tone laced with disdain. And while the prosecution relies on testimony from so-called experts and silent observers, she said, gesturing subtly toward the man, let's remember that a courtroom is for facts, not the opinions of nobodies who sit in the back and pretend to matter. A low murmur rippled through the gallery. The judge narrowed his eyes. Ms. Quinn, let's maintain professionalism in the courtroom. Laura offered a half smile, unapologetic. Of course, Your Honor. Just making a point about relevance. The man in the gray suit didn't flinch. He simply turned another page in his notebook, his pen gliding smoothly as if he'd been expecting the remark. Laura gave him one last look, dismissing him completely, then returned to her seat, unaware that her words had just marked the beginning of her unraveling. The courthouse hallway buzzed with murmurs and the low hum of fluorescent lights. Laura Quinn, still riding high from her performance in court, strutted out with an air of smug satisfaction. Her heels clicked confidently against the polished tile floor as she scrolled through messages on her phone. Just as she reached the water cooler, her junior associate, Daniel, appeared at her side, looking pale and uneasy. Laura, he said quietly, glancing over his shoulder, can I talk to you for a second? She didn't look up. Make it quick. I have 2 more clients and a media call in 20. Daniel hesitated, fidgeting with the file folder clutched to his chest. It's about the guy you called a nobody in the courtroom. Now she glanced at him, amused. What? The silent guy with the old notebook. Please, Daniel. He looked like someone's accountant got lost. Daniel shook his head. He's not a clerk. Or a reporter. I think he's with Internal Affairs. Laura blinked. Then laughed. Oh, come on. Internal Affairs. Sitting in the back row, scribbling in a leather pad like a schoolteacher. If that man's Ia, I'm the Queen of England. I'm serious, Daniel insisted. I saw him in the legal database last year, Marcus Hale. He's the department's top watchdog. Low profile but very real. He's investigated judges, cops, even federal prosecutors. Laura's smile faltered just slightly. You're overreacting. If he was watching us, he wouldn't be so obvious. Trust me, I've seen real threats. That man is nothing. But Daniel didn't look convinced. And as Laura turned to leave, his final words lingered in the air, maybe he doesn't need to be loud to be dangerous. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of a desk lamp and the bluish hue of multiple monitors lining the back wall. Filing cabinets stood like silent sentinels along the edges, and on the large oak desk lay a carefully arranged array of manila folders, USB drives, surveillance photos, and neatly typed reports. At the center of it all sat the quiet man from the courtroom, Marcus Hale. Gone was the unassuming figure in the gray suit. Here, in the controlled silence of Internal Affairs headquarters, Marcus looked every inch the high-ranking officer he was. His posture was straight, his expression unreadable, and his eyes laser-focused as he flipped through the file in front of him. Laura Quinn, Defense Counsel, Active Cases, Known Associates. A red tab marked the folder's edge. He studied a photo of Laura exiting a courthouse, her client, Vincent Dre, beside her. Other images followed. A grainy photo of her speaking to a man in a car at midnight, a bank statement showing a sudden deposit to an offshore account. A document was clipped to the final page, potential complicity, evidence pending final review. He leaned back, steepling his fingers in thought. A moment passed, then he tapped a key on his keyboard, pulling up a confidential video feed. On the screen, Laura's courtroom performance played back, including the exact moment she pointed at him and dismissed him as a nobody. His jaw tightened slightly, not out of offense, but resolve. He picked up his phone, dialed a number. "Get me Judge Rollins. We have enough. It's time." As the call connected, Marcus closed the file with deliberate care. The quiet man in the back of the courtroom was done observing. Now, he was taking control. The courtroom felt different now. The earlier confidence, the rhythm of back-and-forth arguments, had faded into a strange stillness, like the eye of a storm. Laura Quinn sat at the defense table, her fingers tapping lightly on a legal pad, a small, satisfied smirk playing on her lips. She thought she had it won. The prosecution was flailing, her client had kept a straight face, and the jury seemed to be leaning her way. Then the sound of a chair scraping broke the silence. From the back of the courtroom, the man she had called a nobody slowly rose. Marcus Hale walked forward with calm purpose, his steps deliberate. His presence shifted the energy in the room. Lawyers paused. The judge leaned forward. Even the bailiff tensed, unsure of what was about to unfold. "Your Honor," Marcus said, holding out a sealed envelope with a gold-trimmed tab, "I apologize for the interruption, but this concerns the integrity of the trial. My name is Marcus Hale, head of internal affairs." A ripple of whispers exploded across the courtroom. Laura's smirk vanished. Her posture stiffened as she turned toward him, blinking in disbelief. The judge frowned. "This is highly irregular, Mr. Hale. What's this about?" Marcus remained composed. "Internal Affairs has been conducting a silent investigation surrounding this case. We have reason to believe that the defendant, Vincent Dre, was involved in a judicial bribery scheme, and that new evidence implicates defense counsel in the concealment of that activity." The judge took the envelope, opening it with a careful hand. Inside were color-printed documents, photos, time-stamped transactions. His eyes moved quickly, then widened slightly. He looked up, grim. "Ms. Quinn," he said, voice heavy with new weight, "you and I need to speak in chambers. Now." The jury stared. The gallery buzzed again. Laura didn't move right away. Her throat tightened, her gaze fixed on Marcus, who now stood beside the prosecution table, the ultimate reversal of roles. The nobody was now the man holding the cards. Inside the judge's chambers, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The room, lined with dark wood bookshelves and heavy curtains, was far removed from the clamor of the courtroom, but the air still vibrated with what had just occurred. Judge Rollins sat behind his desk, flipping slowly through the documents. Marcus Hale had submitted, his expression unreadable. Laura Quinn stood near one of the leather chairs, arms crossed tightly, her jaw clenched. Gone was her courtroom confidence. Now she was guarded, calculating, trying to understand just how badly the ground had shifted beneath her. Marcus stood calmly across from her, hands clasped behind his back, his tone measured. "You buried evidence that would have implicated your client in a bribery ring. The transfer from Dre's holding company to the retired judge's family trust. You had that file. We have the metadata from your firm's servers. You opened it 6 days ago." Laura's eyes flashed. "You don't know the full story. That transfer doesn't prove anything. And your surveillance, how legal was it, really?" Marcus didn't flinch. "We operated under a sealed warrant. And we didn't need to stretch anything. You've been too careful for too long, Laura, but not this time. You got comfortable." She stepped forward, her voice low, biting. "So this is about ego. About a cheap insult in court. You're destroying my reputation over a moment of arrogance." "This was never about your insult," Marcus replied evenly. "You just confirmed what I already suspected. You dismiss people too easily. That mistake cost you today." Judge Rollins finally looked up. "Ms. Quinn, you're entitled to counsel of your own. I suggest you find someone, quickly." For the first time in her career, Laura was no longer in control. And the man she'd mocked had become her reckoning. The cafe was modest, just a corner spot across from the courthouse, with large windows and worn leather booths. The midday crowd murmured over coffee cups and open laptops, their conversations drifting in and out beneath the soft jazz playing overhead. But all of it faded into the background as the news broadcast on the wall-mounted television seized everyone's attention. On-screen, the image was stark and unforgettable. Laura Quinn, once the city's most feared defense attorney, being led in handcuffs down the courthouse steps. Her hair, usually immaculately styled, clung slightly to her face in the humid spring air. Her expression wasn't anger or denial, it was shock, the kind that sets in when someone realizes the world no longer bends for them. The reporter's voiceover played above the footage. In a stunning development, prominent attorney Laura Quinn was arrested today following explosive revelations during a high-profile corruption trial. Internal Affairs confirmed that Quinn is being investigated for obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and potential involvement in a judicial bribery scheme. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the cafe. A barista paused mid-order. A lawyer sitting near the window quietly closed his laptop, suddenly uneasy. Outside, beyond the window's reflection, Marcus Hale walked past the cafe, coat buttoned, head down. He didn't glance at the screen. He didn't need to. He moved with quiet purpose, vanishing into the late afternoon crowd like a shadow folding into light. No fanfare, no recognition, just the calm of a man who'd done his job. Behind him, the world was already shifting, rebuilding around the fall of one of its brightest stars. The nobody had never needed to be seen, only heard when it mattered most.